Good day, everyone. My name is Marvis Villamor, and I'm the first reporter of this topic, which is the insurance law. But before that, let's have first the objectives. Learning objectives. Enumerate items that can be insured by a tourism establishment. Next, identify the rationale behind the concept of insurance. Explain the different kinds of insurance and identify the advantages and disadvantages of having insurance. So, what is insurance? Insurance is very useful for companies engaged in the tourism industry because there are many kinds of risk in enterprises where investment oftentimes is quite substantial. By way of example, an employer may subscribe to a group insurance of his employees as part of its employee benefit program. Companies utilizing building structures for the operation of their hotels, restaurants, and other tourism related establishments may think of investing in property insurance against fire or earthquake to protect their investments. Lastly, an investment in marine insurance, the usual practice among companies engaged in the transportation of cargoes at sea, may also be worth looking at. The law, Section 2.1. A contract of insurance is an agreement whereby one undertakes for a consideration to indemnify another against loss, damage, or liability arising from an unknown or contingent event. An insurance contract is a document representing the agreement between an insurance company and the insured. Now let's proceed to the essential elements of an insurance contract. The essential elements of an insurance contract are first, the insurable interest, which means that the interest that a person has in something, such as a particular property or another individual, which means that the person would suffer a loss should that property or individual be harmed. In insurance law, you can only buy insurance for something or someone in which you have an insurable interest. Next, the existence of risk, assumption of such risk by the insurer, said assumption being part of a general scheme to distribute actual losses among those bearing similar risk. And lastly is the payment of premium. Now we have here the characteristics. The characteristics of an insurance contract are first, aleatory. There is an element of risk. An aleatory contract is one where the obligations depends upon the occurrence of an uncertain event, as in the case of fire insurance, or one certain to happen but at an indeterminate time, that is, death and life insurance. Next is the contract of indemnity. There is an exchange of value, particularly in property insurance. Next, onerous. There is a valuable consideration given payment of premium. Next is the bilateral. Both parties are bound to do something. Formal, as to form, a policy is required to be issued and the premium must be paid. Next would be the parties of an insurance contract. Parties of an insurance contract are, first is the insurer. It is a person, partnership, association, or corporation duly authorized to transact an insurance business. Next is the insured. It is a person with insurable interest who stands to benefit from a policy of insurance. In its strict sense, the insured party is the owner or purchaser of the policy even though benefit of the insurance may accrue to someone else. Next is the beneficiary. It is a person designated by the terms of the policy to receive the proceeds of the insurance policy upon the happening of the event insured against. It is a person named in an insurance policy as the one to receive proceeds or benefits accruing thereunder. Next, insurance contract may refer to the following. First, life insurance. It is an insurance on human lives and insurance appertaining thereto or connected therewith. Next is the fire insurance, which includes loss by fire, lightning, windstorm, tornado, or earthquake, and other allied risks. When such risks are covered by extension to fire insurance, policies are under separate policies. Next is the marine insurance. It is a contract whereby one, for a consideration, agrees to indemnify another for the loss or damage on a certain interest subject to marine's risks by certain perils of the sea or specified casualties during a voyage or fixed period. Next is the personal accident insurance. It is an insurance which provides pecuniary compensation for expenses or losses of income brought by death or bodily injury arising from violent, external, visible, and accidental means. An insurance contract is considered a contract of adhesion in which almost all the provisions have been drafted only by one party, usually the insurance company. The only participation of the other party is the signing of his signature of his adhesion. In this regard, such contracts are to be construed liberally in favor of the insured and strictly against the insurer in resolving all ambiguities against the latter. Application of the law. American Fortune Life and General Insurance Co. Incorporation or AmFortune issued fire insurance policy number 136171 in favor of Mr. John Michael Rojas on his five-star hotel building in Makati City, together with all its effects therein. The insurance was for 8 million covering the period from January 23, 2008 to January 23, 2009. On January 23, 2008, of the total premium of 10,000 pesos, Mr. Rojas only paid 5,000 pesos, thus leaving a considerable balance unpaid. On March 10, 2008, Mr. Rojas paid the balance of the premium. On the same day, Mr. Rojas filed with Unfortunate a claim on the fire insurance policy. Unfortunate denied the claim of Mr. Rojas for the premium has not yet been fully paid in violation of policy condition number 2 of the contract, which states this policy of insurance witnesses that only after payment of the company, in accordance with policy condition number 2 of the total premiums of the insured as stipulated above for the period aforementioned, for insuring against loss or damage by fire or lightning as herein appears, this policy, including any renewal thereof and or any endorsement thereon, is not in force until the premium has been fully paid and duly receipted by the company in the manner provided herein. Any supplementary agreement seeking to amend this condition prepared by agent, broker, or company official shall be deemed invalid and of no effect. Question. Is Mr. Rojas entitled to claim under the fire insurance policy? The answer is no. Mr. Rojas is not entitled to claim under the fire insurance policy. This is fully supported by Section 77 of the Insurance Code, which provides Section 77, an insurer is entitled to payment of the premium as soon as the thing is insured is exposed to the peril insured against, notwithstanding any agreement to the contrary. No policy or contract of insurance is issued by an insurance company is valid and binding unless and until the premium thereof has been paid, except in the case of a life or an industrial life policy, whenever the grace period provision applies. The rule that contracts of insurance will be construed in favor of the insured and most strongly against the insurer should not be permitted to have the effect of having a plain agreement ambiguous and then construe it in favor of the insured. In addition, it is elemental law that the payment of premium is requisite to keep the policy of insurance in force. If the premium is not paid in the manner prescribed in the policy as intended by the parties, the policy is ineffective. Partial payment, even when accepted as a partial payment, will not keep the policy alive even for such fractional part of the year as the part payment bears to the whole payment. That's all.
So, good day, everyone. I am John Michael Eo, and I am the next reporter of the insurance law. And for my topic is about insurable interest. So, the law. Section 10. Every person has an insurable interest in the life and health of any person on whom he depends wholly or in part for education or support, or in whom he has pecuniary interest, of any person under a legal obligation to him for the payment of money or respecting property or service of which death or illness might delay or prevent the performance. So for the section 13, every interest in property, whether real or personal or any relation thereto or liability in respect thereof, of such nature that a contemplated peril might directly damnify the insured, is an insurable interest, like an existing interest, also inchoate interest founded on an existing interest, and also an expectancy coupled with an existing interest that out of which the expectancy arises. And for the section 15, uh, a carrier or depository of any kind has an insurable interest in a thing held by him as such to the extent of his liability, but not to exceed the value thereof. And for the discussion of the law, an insurable interest is that relationship with a person or thing that will support the issuance of an insurance policy. A person is usually regarded as having an insurable interest in the subject matter insured when he will derive pecuniary benefit or advantage from its preservation or will suffer pecuniary loss or damage from its destruction. So insurable interest in property should exist not only on the date of execution of the contract of insurance, but on the date of the occurrence of the risk insured against. So on the other hand, insurable interest in the life and health of a person insured on must exist when the insurance takes effect, but need not exist thereafter or when the loss occurs. So insurable interest in group insurance. Any person so related to another either by contract or commercial relation may lawfully procure insurance on the other's life. Thus, an employer may insure the life of the employee and vice versa. So the primary aim of group insurance is to provide the employer with a means of procuring insurance protection for his employees and their families at the lowest possible cost. And in so doing, the employer creates goodwill with his employees, enables the employees to carry a larger amount of insurance, and help to attract and hold a permanent class of employees. So, a group of insurance is essentially single insurance contract that provides coverage for many individuals. It provides life or health insurance coverage for the employees of the employer. So, in order to validly claim benefits from the group insurance, employees must be actively at work and must have completed a specified period of continuous employment. Otherwise, the insurable interest cease. Generally, group insurance have non-forfeiture clauses except for term insurance, so provides protection for a limited period for 5 to 10 to 15 years. So if an employee's insurance terminates because he leaves the employer, the employee has the privilege of into any standard form of insurance except for a term insurance. So for the application of the law, so case on June 9, 2005, Mr. John Bartolome insured the life of his best friend Noel Lim under the group insurance of Mr. Bartolome's travel agency called Lucky Charm Travel Agency, designating himself as the irrevocable beneficiary other than being his best friend. So John Bartolome is not related to Noel Lim. So on July 10, 2007, after the lapse of more than 2 years, Noel Lim dies. So is John Bartolome entitled to the proceeds of the policy considering that all premiums have been paid and considering further that no misrepresentation or concealment material to the risk has been employed? So the legal opinion is that no, because the policy void and unenforceable unless the person who procures it has an insurable interest in the life of the insured. So an insurable interest must be present either in the person taking out the insurance or the beneficiary. Being best friends does not automatically create an insurable interest. There must be an actual expectation of pecuniary benefit to sustain an insurance. So in the instance case, John Bartolome has no insurable interest in the life of Noah Lim. So insurable interest in property. In property insurance, it is important that insurable interest must exist when the insurance takes effect and when the loss occurs. So in marine insurance, the owner of the ship has in all cases an insurable interest in it, even when it has been chartered by one who covenants to pay him its value in case of loss, provided that in this case the insurer shall be liable for only the part of the loss which the insured cannot recover from the charterer. So the measures of an insurable interest is property is the in property is the extent to which the insured might be damnified by loss or injury thereof. 20 any contract of property insurance that gives to the insured more than the indemnity against the actual loss that may be suffered by reason of designated perils is a policy which is contrary to law. So this means that insurable interest is a crucial requirement in property insurance, ensuring that the policyholder has a stake in the property both at the time the insurance takes effect and when a loss occurs. So this means that in marine insurance, regardless of whether a ship has been chartered with an agreement to compensate the owner in case of loss, the owner still holds an insurable interest. So, however, in such cases, the insurer is only liable for the portion of the loss that the owner cannot recover from the charterer. So the extent of insurable interest is determined by the potential damage or loss the insured may suffer. So any property insurance contract that provides the insured with more compensation that the actual loss resulting from a specified risk is considered illegal. So for the beneficiaries, so the law, Section 18, no contract or policy of insurance on property shall be enforceable except for the benefits of some person having an insurable interest in property insured. So this means that Section 18 states that any contract or policy of property insurance can only be enforced if it benefits someone who has an insurable interest in the insured property. And for the Section 19, an interest in property insured must exist when the insurance takes effect and when the loss occurs, but need not exist in the meantime. And interest in the life or health of a person insured must exist when the insurance insurance takes effect, but need not exist thereafter or when the loss occurs. So Section 19 states that for property insurance, an insurable interest must be present when the ins- uh, when the insurance takes effect and when the loss happens, but it is not required to be maintained in the meantime. Whereas for life or health insurance, an insurable interest must be present when the insurance takes effect, but is not necessary afterwards or when the loss occurs. So, discussion of the law. A person cannot lawfully procure insurance on the life of another in whose life he has no insurable interest. Hence, the assured must have an interest to preserve the life to be insured in spite of the insurance, in order that one may have an insurable interest in life of another. It must be one of those mentioned in Section 10 of Name Insured obtains insurance on the life and health of its employees. With respect to insurance on property, it is imperative that the beneficiary is a person having an insurable interest in the property insured. However, an interest property insured must exist when the insurance takes effect, and when the loss occurs. On the other hand, interest in the life of health of a person insured must exist when the insurance takes effect but need not exist thereafter or when the loss occurs. So this means that insurance can only be lawfully obtained on the life of another life if the person procuring the insurance has an insurable interest, which means they must have a stake in preserving the insured person life regardless of the insurance. For property insurance, the beneficiary must have an insurable interest in the property, which must exist when the insurance takes effect and when the loss occurs. Whereas for life or health insurance, the insurable interest must exist when the insurable takes effect but is not required thereafter or when the loss occurs. And for the discussion of the law, from the application of the law, so case, it appears that on 23 September 1983, Prime Marine Service Incorporation, or PMSI for brevity, a crewing or manning outfit procured group policy number G dash 004694 from Insular Life Assurance a company, to provide life insurance coverage to its sea-based employees enrolled under the plan on 17 February 1986. So during the effectivity of the policy is six covered employees of the PMSI perished at sea when their vessel MV Nemos, Greek cargo vessel, sunk somewhere in El Hadida, Morocco. So they were survived by several beneficiaries under the policy. So following the tragic demise of their loved ones, the beneficiaries sought to claim death benefits due them. They approached the president and general manager of PMSI, Roberto Nuval. Captain Nuval expressed willingness to assist beneficiaries to recover Overseas Workers Welfare Administration, or OWA. So benefits from POEA, and to work for the other benefits arising from the deaths of their husband or sons. So the beneficiaries were thus made to execute special powers of attorneys authorizing Cap Nobel to follow up, ask, demand, collect, and receive for their benefits indemnities of sum of money due to them relative to the sinking of MB Nemos. By virtue of these written powers of attorney, the beneficiaries were able to receive their respective death benefits from OWA. So, unknown to them, however, the PMSI is in the capacity as employer and holder of the life insurance of its deceased workers, filled with insular life formal claims for and in behalf of the beneficiaries through its president, Cap Nubal, on 3 July 1989. After the beneficiaries learned that they were entitled as beneficiaries under a life insurance benefits group policy with Insular Life, they sought to recover these benefits from Insular Life, but the later denied their claims on the ground that the liability to beneficiaries was already extinguished upon delivery to the receipt by PMSI of the six checks issued in their names. So the question is, who is entitled to the life insurance claimed under the group insurance policy with Insurer Life? So the answer is, so for the legal opinion, the surviving beneficiaries under the policy, not the employer, are the ones entitled to claim. So the employer only acts as the agent of the insurer. An agency relationship is based upon consent by one person that another shall act in his behalf and be subject to his control. So it is clear from the evidence regarding procedural techniques that the insurer-employer relationships meets this agency test with regard to the administration of the policy. So the insurer directs the performance of the employer's administrative acts. And if these duties are not undertaken properly, the insurer is in a position to exercise more constricted control over the employer's conduct. So the employer owes to the employee the duty of good faith and due care in attending to the policy, and that the employer should make clear to the employee anything required of him to keep the policy in effect, and the time that the obligation are due. As administrator of the policy, the employer should be considered as the agent of the insurer, and only omission of duty to employee in its administration should be attributable to the insurer. So for fire, marine, and third-party liability insurance. Oh, so marine insurance, Section 99, marine insurance includes 1. Insurance against loss of or damage to A. Vessel, craft, aircraft, vehicles, goods, freight, cargoes, merchandise, effect, disbursements, profits, monies, securities, choses in action, evidence of debts, valuable papers, bottomry, and respondent, respondent interest, and all other kinds of property and interest therein. In respect to, appertaining to, or in connection with any and all risk of perils of navigation, transit, or transportation, or while being assembled, packed, crated, baled, compressed, or similarly prepared for the shipment, or while awaiting shipment, or during any delays, storage, shipments, or thereto, including war risk, marine builders risk, and all personal property floater risk. So to discuss all of these, so we can explain this that Section 99 defines marine insurance as insurance coverage that protects against loss or damage to a wide range of properties and interests, such as vessels, goods, vehicles, as what I have mentioned. So uh, also the personal property floaters risk. So that's all. So for the discussion of the law, the praise perils of the sea or perils of navigation includes only those casualties due to the unusual violence or extraordinary action of wind and wave or to other extraordinary causes connected with navigation. So insurable interest in property should exist not only on the date of execution of the contract of insurance but on the date of the occurrence of the risk insured against. So on the other hand, insurable interest in the life and the health of a person insured must exist when the insurance takes effect but need to exist thereafter or when the loss occurs. So a loss which in the ordinary course or events result from the natural or inevitable action of the sea. So from the ordinary wear, and tear of the ship, from the negligent failure of the ship owner to provide the vessel with proper equipment to convey the cargo under ordinary conditions, is not a peril of the sea. Such a loss is rather due to what is called as perils of the ship. In such a case, the insurer does not undertake to insure against perils of the ship. So to explain this one, so the term perils of the sea or perils of navigation refers specifically to casualties caused by exceptional wind and wave condition or other extraordinary factors related to navigation. So as what I have mentioned, so while an insurable interest in property must be present both of the time of insurance contract execution and when the insured risk occurs, whereas insurable interest in the life and the health of an insured person must exist at the inception of the insurance but not necessarily afterwards or at the time of loss and losses resulting from natural sea action. So ship wear and tear or ship owner negligence in providing proper equipment are not considered perils of the sea but rather perils of the ship which are not covered by the insurer. So the case on November 4, 1976, Mr. Choa Tik Seng or Mr. Seng imported some lactose crystals from Holland. The goods were loaded at the port of Rotterdam in sea vans on board the Weather Broker B25 of Ben Lines Container Ltd, Ben Lines for short. So the goods were insured by the Filipino Merchants Corporation, Insurance Company for short. So for the sum of 98,882.35 pesos, the equivalent of US dollar is 8,765 plus 50% markup or US dollar $13,000 or 13,000 US dollar and 147 and 50 centavos. So against all risks under the terms of the insurance cargo policy upon arrival at the port of Manila, the cargo was discharged into the custody of the Arrastre operator E. Razon Incorporation, broker for short. Prior to the delivery to Mr. Seng through his broker, it must be noted that the cargo upon discharge from the vessel was delivered to the custody of the Arrastre operator or E-Razon under clean tally sheet. Moreover, the container van containing the cargo was found with both its seal and lock intact. So of the 600 bags delivered to Mr. Seng, 403 bags were in bad order. So the service showed that the bad order bags suffered spillage and loss later valued at 33,000 pesos and 117 63 centavos. Mr. Seng filed a claim for said loss dated February 16 and 1977 against the insurance company in the amount of 33,117 pesos as the insured value of the loss. So the insurance company rejected the claim alleging that the said 400 bags were loaded in bad order and that in any case the van did not carry the evidence of spillage. In addition, the insurance comply alleged that the insured Mr. Sang failed to prove that alleged damage was due to risk connected with the navigation of perils of the sea. So is Mr. Sang entitled to insurance claims? So the answer is, in legal opinion, yes, Mr. Sang is entitled to the insurance claims that the terms of the policy are clear and the claim of Mr. Seng is covered under an all-risk insurance. An all-risk insurance policy insures against all causes and conceivable loss or damage, except as otherwise excluded in the policy or due to the fraud or intentional misconduct on the part of the insured. It covers all losses during the voyage, whether as arising from a marine peril or not, including pilferage losses during the war. So the insurance policy covers all loss damage to cargo except the caused by delay or inherent vice or nature of the cargo insured. So it is the duty of the respondent's insurance company to establish that said loss or damage falls within the exceptions provided by law. Otherwise, it is liable therefore. In case the damage caused to the cargo has not been attributed to any of the exceptions provided for, nor is there any pretensions to this effect. Thus, the liability on the insurance company is clear. So that's all for my report, and thank you for listening.
Once again, good day everyone. I am Florami Pagod, the third reporter of Insurance Law. Fire Insurance. Section 167, as used in this code, the term fire insurance shall include insurance against loss by fire, lightning, windstorm, tornado, or earthquake, and other allied risks, when such risks are covered by the extension of fire insurance policies or under separate policies. Fire insurance is essentially a contract of indemnity. In fire insurance, only a hostile and not a friendly fire is insured against. Under an open policy, the measure of indemnity is the actual loss sustained and the burden is upon the insured to establish the amount of such loss. Under a valued policy of fire insurance, the valuation in the policy is conclusive between the parties. Case. Gulf Resorts Incorporation is the owner of the Plaza Resort situated at Agu La Union and had its properties in said resort insured originally with the American Home Assurance Company. In the first four insurance policy issued by AHAC from 1984 to 85, 1985 to 1986, 1986 to 1987, and 1987 to 1988. The risk of loss from earthquake shock was extended only to two swimming pools. Subsequently, AHAC issued in favor of Gulf Resorts Incorporation policy number 2064182 covering the period 1988 to 1989, and in said policy, the earthquake endorsement clause was deleted. Gulf Resorts renewed its policy with AHAC for the period of 1989 to 1990 under policy number 20645680619, which reads endorsement to include earthquake shock in the amount of 10,700 and paid 42,658.14 as premium, computed as follows. Item 7,691,000 on the clubhouse, only at 0.392%. 1,500,000 on the furniture, etc. contained in the building above mentioned at 4.490%. 393,000 on two swimming pools only, against the peril of earthquake shock only at 0.100%. 116,600 other buildings include as follows: Telter House 19,800, 0.551%. Powerhouse 41,000, 0.551%. House Shed 55,000, 0.540%. 100,000 for furniture, fixtures, lines, aircon, and operating equipment. Gulf Resorts agreed to insure with EHAC the properties covered by EHAC policy number 206-456, policy number 206-45680-619, provided that policy wording and rates in said policy be copied in the policy to be issued by EHAC. As a result, EHAC issued policy number 31944 to Gulf Resorts covering the period of 1990 to 1991 for 10,700,600 for a total premium of 45,159.92. The payment is as follows: premium 37,420 and 60 cents, 2,000 and 2,061.52 cents, 1,030.76 and 393. Doc stamps 3,068.10 and FST 776.89. Prim tax 409.5 for the total of 45,159.92. The above breakdown of premiums shows that Gulf Resorts paid only 393 pesos as premium against earthquake shock, that in all the 6 insurance policies for the periods of 1984 to 1985, 1985 to 1986, 1986 to 1987, and 1987 to 1988, 1989 to 1990, 1990 to 1991. The premium against the peril of earthquake shock is the same, that is 393 pesos. On July 16, 1990, an earthquake struck Central Luzon and Northern Luzon, and Gulf Resorts properties covered by policy number 31944 issued by EHAC, including two swimming pools in its Agu Playa Resort, were damaged. To what extent should Gulf Resorts Incorporation recover from American Home Assurance Company with respect to the damaged properties? Gulf Resorts Incorporation can only recover from the properties covered under the perils of the earthquake shock. The two swimming pools, the essential elements of a valid insurance contract, are as follows. Insurable interest. Insurable interest refers to a legal or financial damage, or if the insured person experiences harm. In the case of Gulf Resort Incorporation, they have an insurable interest in their properties at the Plaza Resorts, since they are the owners of those properties. Existence of risk. Insurance contracts require the existence of risk, which means that there is possibility of loss or damage occurring to the insured property or person. In this case, the risk of loss or damage by perils such as fire, lightning, windstorm, tornado, and earthquake is covered by the insurance policy. Assumption of risk by the insurer. The insurer assumes that the risk of potential loss or damage as stated in the insurance policy. By issuing the policy to Gulf Resorts Incorporation, the insurer, or EHAC, agreed to bear the financial responsibility for the covered risk. Said assumption being part of a general scheme to distribute actual losses among those bearing similar risks. Insurance operates on the principle of risk distribution. The assumption of risk by the insurer is part of a large system where premiums are collected from policyholders, and in the event of covered loss, the insurer compensates the policyholder for the actual losses suffered. This ensures that the burden of losses is shared among those who are insured and helps mitigate the financial impact of unforeseen events. Losses. Payment. Compulsory motor vehicle liability insurance. The law. Section 373 for purposes of this chapter. Motor vehicle is any vehicle as defined in Section 3, Paragraph A of the Republic Number 4136, otherwise known as the Land Transportation and Traffic Code, as amended by PD 1455. P. Passenger is any fare-paying person being transported and conveyed in and by a motor vehicle for transportation of passengers for compensation, including persons expressly authorized by law. The vehicle operator or his agents to ride without fare, as amended by PD 1455. Third party is any person other than a passenger as defined in this section and shall also exclude a member of the household or a member of the family within the second degree of consanguinity or affinity of a motor vehicle owner or land transportation operator, as likewise defined herein, or his employee in respect to death or bodily injury arising out of and in the course of employment, as amended by PD 1814. D. Land transportation operator means the owner or owners of the motor vehicles for transportation of passenger for compensation, including school buses, as amended by PD 1455. E. Insurance policy or policy. It refers to a contract of insurance against passenger and third-party liability of death for death and bodily injuries arising from motor vehicle accident, as amended by PD 1814. Section 374, it shall be unlawful for any land transportation operator to operate the same in the public highways unless there is in force in relation thereto a policy of insurance or guarantee in cash or surety bond issued in accordance with the provisions of this chapter to identify the death, body injury, and or damage to property of a third party or passenger, as the case may be arising from the use thereof, as amended by PD number 1455. Section 377. Section 377. Every land transportation operator and every owner of a motor vehicle shall before applying for the registration or renewal or of registration of any motor vehicle at his option either secure an insurance policy or surety bond issued by an insurance company authorized by the commissioner, or make a cash deposit in such amount as therein required as limit of liability for purposes specified in section 374. So before applying for registration of motor vehicle, the land transportation operator or owner must secure a compulsory motor vehicle liability insurance, also known as the third party liability insurance, or TPL, accredited by the insurance commissioner. Any claim for death or injury to passenger or third party pursuant to the provisions on compulsory motor vehicle liability insurance shall be paid without the necessity of providing fault or negligence of any kind provided. The total indemnity in respect of any one person shall not exceed 5,000 pesos. There must be submission of the following documents subscribed under oath, like police report incident, death certificate and evidence sufficient to establish the proper pay, medical report and evidence of medical or hospital reimbursement in respect of which fund is made. And lastly, claim may be made against one motor vehicle only. So, application of the law. Case: National Food Authority, or NFA, formerly National Grains Authority, was the owner of Chevrolet truck which was insured against liabilities for death of and injuries to third persons with the GSIS. On May 9, 1979, at about 7 in the evening at Tabon-Tabon, Butuan City, the said Chevrolet truck driven by Guillermo Corbita collided with a public utility vehicle, a Toyota Tamaraw. The Toyota Tamaraw was owned and operated by Victor Oy under the name and style of Victory Line. The Tamaraw was a total wreck. All the collision victims were passengers of the Toyota Tamaraw. 5 passengers died while 10 others sustained bodily injuries. Among those injured were Victoria Jaime, VDA Dico, and Gloria Co, VDA de Calambia. Among the dead were Maxima Ogmad, VDA Dico, Roland Co, and Willie Calambia Sr. 3 cases were filed with the Court of First Instance of Agusan del Norte and Butuan City. The first civil case, number 2196, for quasi-delect damages and attorney's fees, was commenced by Uy on June 5, 1979 against NFA and Corbita. On August 27, 1979, the second civil case number 2225 for damages was filed by an injured passenger against UI, the operator of the public utility vehicle, and insurer, Mabuhay Insurance and Guarantee Co., or MIGS. The third civil case number 2256 was instituted by the victims on November 26, 1979 against the following: NFA and Corbita Chevrolet truck of NFA was held solidarily liable with its driver, Guillermo Cordita. GSIS is now appealing and denies solidarity liability with NFA or the diligent driver of the cargo truck because it claims that they are liable under different obligations. It asserts that the NFA's liability is based on quasi-delect, while GSIS liability is based on the contract of insurance, rule on the contention of GSIS. So, a compulsory motor vehicle liability insurance or third-party liability or TPL is primarily intended to provide compensation for death or bodily injuries suffered by innocent third parties or passengers as a result of a negligent operation and use of motor vehicles. The victims and or their dependents are assured of immediate financial assistance, regardless of the financial capacity of motor vehicle owners. Note that common carriers are required to secure compulsory motor vehicle liability insurance coverage as provided under Section 374 of the Insurance Code, precisely for the benefit of victims of vehicular accidents and to extend them immediate relief. In this regard, the injured party for whom the contract of insurance is intended can sue directly the insurer or GSIS. The general purpose of statutes enabling an injured person to proceed directly against the insurer is to protect injured persons against the insolvency of the insured who causes such injury and to give such injured person a certain beneficial interest in the proceeds of the policy. However, although the victim may proceed directly against the insurer for the indemnity, the third party liability is only up to extent of the insurance policy and those required by law. While it is true that where the insurance contract provides for indemnity against liability to third persons, and such third persons can directly sue the insurer, the direct liability of the insurer under indemnity contracts against third-party liability does not mean that the insurer can be held liable in solidum with the insured and or the other parties found at fault. War risk insurance. War risk insurance is an insurance covering damage caused by acts of war. It includes coverage for war, hijacking, and related perils. Insurers have intended to withdraw liability coverage for weapons of mass destruction. A subset of war risk insurance includes radioactive contamination, electromagnetic pulse devices, chemical biological weapons. Radioactive contamination or dirty bombs, these are conventional explosive combined with radioactive materials. When detonated, they can spread radioactive material causing contamination and potential health hazard. Electromagnetic pulse or EMP devices. It is a devices generate a high intensity burst of electromagnetic energy. When detonated, they can disrupt or destroy electronic systems and infrastructure, leading to widespread disruptions. Chemical or biological weapons. These are weapons that use chemical or biological agents to harm or kill people, animals, or plants. They can cause severe injuries, illness, or fatalities, and have the potential for widespread harm. Coverage was subsequently provided at full policy limits for passengers' liability, but limited to maximum of US $50 million for US $50 million for Coverage was subsequently provided at full policy limits for passengers' for passenger liability but limited to a maximum US $50 million for all third-party injury and property damage. Some countries, like the United States of America, provide coverage while others do not. The International Air Transport Association has argued that airlines in countries that do not provide coverage are at a competitive disadvantage. Under the Federal Aviation Administration program, insurance coverage for passenger and third-party liabilities for US airlines is approximately US dollars 0.70 passenger compared to almost US $3 outside of the US. International Airport Transport Association policy: in most jurisdictions, including the European Union, airlines are required by law to have liability insurance, including coverage for weapons of mass destruction. Aircraft lease agreements also require coverage of war risk insurance since the use of weapons of mass destruction is directed against states. The ultimate responsibility for security of citizens rests with states. Case: TKC Marketing Corporation was the owner or consignee of some 3,189.171 metric tons of soybean meal, which was loaded on board the ship. MVL ultimate responsibility for security of citizens rests with states. Case: TKC Marketing Corporation was the owner or consignee of some 3,189.171 metric tons of soybean meal, which was loaded on board the ship MV Kazima on or about September 8, 1989, for carriage from the port of Rio del Grande, Brazil, to the port of Manila. Said cargo was insured against the risk of loss by Malayan Insurance Corporation, for which it issued two marine cargo policy numbers M or LP 978000305 amounting to 18,986,902.45 and MLP 978000306 amounting to 1,195,005.45, both dated September 1989. Under the insurance policy, the Institute War Clauses, cargo was deemed incorporated, which provides the insurance covers 1.1 the risk excluded from the standard from English Marine policy by the clause warranted free of capture, seizure, arrest, restraint, or detainment, and the consequences thereof of hostilities or warlike operations, whether there are declaration of war or not, but this warranty shall not exclude collision contact with any fixed or floating object, or other than a mine or torpedo, standing, a heavy weather, or fire unless caused directly and independently of the nature on voyage or service which the vessel concerned, or in the case of a collision, any other vessel involved therein is performing by a hostile act by or against the belligerent power, and for the purpose of this warranty power includes any authority maintaining naval, military, or air forces in association with a power, further warranted free from the consequences of civil war, revolution, rebellion, insurrection, or civil strike arising therefrom, or piracy. While the vessel was docked in Durban, South Africa on September 11, 1989, en route to Manila, the civil authorities arrested and detained it because of a lawsuit on a question of ownership and possession. As a result, TKC notified Malayan on October 4, 1989 of the arrest of the vessel and made a formal claim for the amount of US $916,886.66, representing the dollar equivalent on the policies for non-delivery of the cargo. Malayan replied that the arrest of the vessel by civil authority was not a peril covered by the policies. Malayan claims that arrest, restraints, or detainments contemplated in the coverage were those effected by political or executive acts pertaining exclusively to warlike operations. The arrest, restraint, or detainment rules out detention by ordinary legal processes. Hence, arrest by civil authorities, such as what happened in the instant case, is an accepted risk. Can TKC recover from the claim? And the answer is yes. TKC can recover from the claim by way of a historical background. Marine insurance developed as an all-risk coverage using the phrase perils of the sea to encompass the wide and varied range of risks that were covered. The interpretation of institute war clauses in recent years included seizure or detention by civil authorities, whether or not said a risk by civil authorities occurred in a state of war. It has been held that a strained interpretation which is unnatural and force us to lead to an absurd conclusion or to render the policy nonsensical should by all means be avoided. Likewise, it must be borne in mind that such contracts are invariably prepared by the companies and must be accepted by the insured in the form in which they are written. Any construction of marine policy rendering it void should be avoided. Such policy will, therefore, be construed strictly against the company in order to avoid a forfeiture, unless no other result is possible from the language used. Be that as it may, exceptions to the general coverage are construed most strongly against the company. And that's the end of our report. Thank you.